Mary for her leadership, to Laura for being such a stalwart partner. Laura takes my calls all hours of the day and night, which is amazing. Joan and I have had a chance to work together going back to the campaign. Joan was a really fantastic partner there and has been since, and previously I worked with Sister Simone on a multitude of fronts. So again, we are such huge fans, but I'm the biggest fan of your work. So it's just an honor to be here this morning. I'm going to just share a little bit about some of the work that we do, some of the ways in which we collaborate and partner with faith-based organizations and leaders and communities, and why your work is so important and why this partnership is so important to making things happen and getting things done. As Meg mentioned, so I serve in kind of two roles, sort of dual-hatted, and one of my roles is with the Office of Faith-Based Neighborhood Partnerships at the White House. I'm going to touch on that briefly. And then my primary role is with the Office of Public Engagement, and that's largely where I work together with Network. So for the Office of Faith-Based Neighborhood Partnerships, I serve as Deputy Director. We were established as an office back in 2001 by President Bush. This has been a bipartisan effort since then. Each successive president has had their own version of this office. And so President Obama followed President Bush with his own executive order establishing this, then President Trump did, and then President Biden established his Office of Faith-Based Neighborhood Partnerships in February of 2021. And the area of emphasis, we have kind of 5 big buckets that we do work in right now. And this work shifts a little bit as the priorities of the administration shift, but one is working on addressing COVID and collaborating with faith-based and community-based organizations to address the pandemic. Network has been a great partner on that. 2 is pursuing racial equity and justice in all ways, shapes, and forms. 3 is working to provide opportunity for historically disadvantaged communities, and so a lot of that is through partnerships work at the agency level. 4 is working on international development and relief work, largely through our team at USAID, the U.S. Agency for International Development. And then 5th is protecting religious pluralism and ensuring constitutional guarantees around religious freedom. And so these are all things that intersect a bunch of bodies of work. We have centers at 11 different federal agencies by executive order, and we have different folks who work there to execute the mission of those agencies while also promoting partnerships to serve people in need, which is essentially the umbrella mission of the Office of Faith-Based Neighborhood Partnerships. So that is a place where we work with Network, we work with a lot of other organizations, especially to get people plugged into programming happening at different agencies. And as Meg mentioned, I served as the director of the agency Office of Commerce during the Obama administration. So that's the Office of Faith-Based Neighborhood Partnerships. What I'm mostly going to talk about today is the Office of Public Engagement. And at the Office of Public Engagement, we essentially have 4 major buckets of work that we do. The first of them is, you guessed it, engagement. And so over the last week, folks probably saw statements and tweets from the president and the vice president acknowledging and commemorating different holidays, different observances. We do things like that. We work on that. Sometimes we have events. Those have been not as in person because of the pandemic. We're hoping that will change in the not too distant future. But we work on that. We work on all the different things that we know are important to exhibit the ideals of inclusion and diversity and really exemplifying the pluralism of our country in all ways, shapes, and forms. This is really important to the president, vice president, first lady, the second gentleman. They are people who deep in their bones believe in the ideal of Imago Dei, and they are people who want us to ensure that their administration is embodying that in everything they do and they say. And so our public engagement team, we work on doing that as much as we're able to. We also work on the engagement side. We try to provide regular opportunities for folks to stay up to speed on what's happening in the administration and figure out how they can be a part of it. So on our end, during the transition, so I worked on the Biden campaign, then I worked on the transition team and the inauguration, and during the transition, we did a lot of meetings, a lot of listening sessions, and we just basically said, hey, it's been 4 years, 4+ years of this previous administration. We want to learn what's going on. We want to learn how we can do a good job when we come into office, and how we can meet the needs of our partners. What should we do? And one of the number one things people said was, we haven't really heard from the White House in a long time, and heard that consistently over and over. We just haven't gotten a lot of information. We haven't had chances to interact. It hasn't been very, very conversational. And so one of the first things that my office did was establish regular, recurring opportunities to engage. So one is we host a weekly call every Thursday. Everyone here, y'all are invited. If you don't already attend, it happens at noon every single week, unless it's a federal holiday. And on that call, they usually last about 30 minutes. It's a Zoom. We have different guests come in from across the administration. We have cabinet secretaries come in and share updates. We have policy experts come in. We have people from the National Security Council. We have people from the Office of Science and Technology Policy. We have people from different departments, folks who are policy experts, programmatic experts. We even had the president himself join that call. And that is a great way to stay engaged and plugged in. What we try to do is highlight policy updates. We try to highlight different things that the administration is doing. We try to highlight grants and proposal requests where people are seeking ideas, public comment, other things like that. It's just a great way to stay up to speed on things, and it's something that we do every single week because people ask for it, and because we think we want to be in regular communication. The other pieces that we do on the engagement front is we work really hard to stay in regular touch with a lot of our close partners in a very conversational, back and forth way. And so that's a key priority. I talk to a bunch of people in this room very frequently on that front, and whether it's one-on-one or in small group settings or in round tables where we're talking about particular issues, we try to make that a key part of what we do all the time. And I think that that's a really good organizing tactic. Many of you know that many times over, and for those of you who are just getting into organizing, do that. Have conversations all the time. It helps. That two-way dialogue is just so key, and it helps us out a lot, as Meg was mentioning about the State of the Union. So that's the engagement piece that we do, and that's kind of just a little peek into what that looks like. The second piece that we do, which is kind of aligned to that, is policy. Our role in policy, we are not the policy makers in the White House, but we are a conduit between our partners and our policy team. And so what we do is we are the ones who will go and meet with different organizations like Network, like many of you who are coming from other organizations as well, and we get input, we get feedback. We hear from people, and then we share that with folks inside the White House, with senior staff, about, hey, here's what we're hearing from the community, here's what people are looking for on this particular policy thing. And then we do the other side as well, where we work with our policy team to figure out how to communicate what the administration is doing out to our partners and our stakeholders. And so we host briefings, we host small discussions and roundtables with experts. We have different dialogues and conversations where people can talk through, hey, how are we gonna work together on this incoming influx of refugees? How are we gonna work together on the vaccination effort as we get more vaccine, right? About a year ago, we were having a lot of these conversations, a little over a year ago. How are we gonna partner and collaborate on getting people signed up for the child tax credit, especially while it's still in this expanded phase of the American Rescue Plan? So that's a way that we work on policy. It's not with us making all the decisions, but it's with us playing a key facilitator role and ensuring that both the policymakers and our partners know what's going on and have a chance to hear from each other. The third big thing that we do at the Office of Public Engagement is partnerships. And the way that I look at partnerships, it can take on a lot of different forms. Ours are largely focused programmatically. We do partner in a lot of different ways, but I kind of narrow this in on the programmatic partnerships. And this is, how are we helping real people in communities around the country access resources that the administration has made available? So this is, how are we helping people get access to vaccines? And I think the vaccination campaign is a great example of this. We had to rely on congregations. We had to rely on people all over the country, basically hosting vaccine clinics or sharing information, demystifying misinformation, getting the word out there about all the ways in which people could sign up to get vaccinated, the resources, the websites, all the different partnerships that existed with pharmacies. So that's one clear and concrete example. Child tax credit is another example, and many folks in this room have been involved in that, where we've had to collaborate with food banks, with houses of worship that serve low-income communities, with rescue missions, with a whole litany of different organizations that are directly interfacing with low-income individuals and families on a day-to-day basis, so they can share that information and literally help people sign up for the child tax credit on the spot. We can't do that on our own. We are at the White House. Our total staff is somewhere between 400 and 500 people, entire White House. Our team at the Office of Public Engagement is about 20 people. So, we can't be in every community all the time. We absolutely rely not just on partners, but on networks of partners that have local affiliates all around the country. So the child tax credit is another example of that and what that looks like. It's the same thing with healthcare signups when we're working with people to help folks in their communities understand how they can access affordable healthcare, where they can go, what the deadlines are. And similarly with a lot of other programs that came out of the American Rescue Plan, one of the president's signature legislative achievements, like emergency rental assistance. Obviously during the pandemic, a lot of folks got behind on rent just because of the financial circumstances, the economic crisis. And so the emergency rental assistance, $46 billion that we've had to rely on community partners to help folks access. Same thing with low-income heating and energy assistance program. Same thing with the PPP small business loans and more. And so the partnerships piece is really critical, but that's how are real people accessing the things that the administration is doing. And that's it, plain and simple. And that's a critical piece of the work that we do. And then the fourth thing is mobilization. And this is where we work with Network especially closely, as well as a number of our other partners. The president came out of the campaign and the transition really eager to do big things. And we were at a point in time where we had an economic crisis, we had a global pandemic, we were just seeing these incredible flare-ups of racial injustice that were symptomatic of much bigger issues structurally in our system around injustice. We continue to face this existential climate threat as well. And so these were kind of the four things that the president anchored, not just his transition, but his administration around. And there are things that the president came out and took some big swings at legislatively. And this is where the partnerships with the faith community are critical. And with Network in many ways, our partnership has been just so foundational to a lot of the work that's happened. So we work really closely with faith-based partners to get support for the American Rescue Plan. And believe it or not, that helps a lot. It helps a lot when our folks are talking to senators and talking to members of Congress, and they can say, we have folks in communities all around the country, from Network, from Catholic Charities, from the National Association of Evangelicals, from the National Latino Evangelical Coalition, from the National African American Clergy Network, from the American Muslim Health Professionals, from the Jewish Federations of North America, et cetera, supporting these key policy things. And it just shows a lot of community support, and it shows that, you know, these things cut across a diversity of backgrounds, beliefs, cut across the ideological spectrum. And so I think the American Rescue Plan is a great example. We had a historic amount of support from faith-based organizations and leaders for that bill. There was a tremendous amount of advocacy, and that passed with 50 votes in the Senate. 50 votes, right? The bare minimum. And you know, we saw a lot of support as well with the infrastructure law that passed in bipartisan fashion. We've seen a tremendous amount of support for the President's Build Back Better agenda, which we are continuing to work on so many pieces of and continuing to push for. And the ways in which the faith community stepped up and spoke out for the confirmation of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson was not lost on anybody. Yeah, we're very excited to have her stepping in soon. And you know, a lot of these things they're hard fights and they're historic things, but we couldn't do it without the partnership and collaboration of all of people here and people who are a part of many of the coalitions that Network is a part of. And so on our end, we see our relationship with Network, as well as with so many other organizations, just as essential to the work that happens here in DC, but then all around the country. And I think you all, your voices matter tremendously. And you know, I got my start in community organizing when I was a teacher. I was teaching elementary school in the south side of Chicago. Was seeing a lot of these issues impacting my kids and their families. And seeing how hard my kids' parents worked, seeing how they would move everything around to show up for parent-teacher conferences, and then have to go work like 2 or 3 jobs. Some of the most caring, hardworking people I've ever met in my life. And I remember just seeing, you know, how much their parents had all this potential and had basically just been put into these situations that really robbed them of opportunity, simply because of where they were born, color of their skin, all these things that are outside of their control. And so, you know, for me, it really sort of provoked this internal question of, you know, how do I use the opportunities that I've been given? And, you know, as someone who is a person of faith, you know, I think I really believe in that ideal of to whom much is given, much is required. And I had the opportunity to get an education, and so I was thinking, you know, what can I do? And I read this book by a senator at the time named Barack Obama. You probably heard of him. And he talked a lot about community organizing and how he'd been a community organizer in Chicago where I was living. And it just so happened that a friend of a friend was having a birthday, and I literally, after I finished the book, met a community organizer, and we started talking. And that was how I got involved with IAF, the Industrial Areas Foundation, and very historic and experienced and established organizing group. And I remember I was doing a summer training with the IAF in between my first and second year of teaching. And, you know, I was sitting there in this room and just learning from so many people who had these compelling stories and had came from a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different experiences. But one of the things that they impressed upon me was, you know, no one is more important than you, and you're no more important than anybody else. Everyone's story matters. And that is one thing that you can always bring to the table when you're advocating for things. And so I think that that's one thing that I want to impart to you all is how important your story is, even when you sometimes can feel like it's not, especially in the noise of this world and the cacophony of social media and all the different things that, you know, can distract us and can make us feel minimized. I think that the ways in which you all raise your voices are so important collectively and individually. I think that it matters a lot to people who are making decisions about policy and about the structures that govern and dictate our lives and that have a disproportionate impact on the most vulnerable among us. They need to hear from you. They need to hear your story. They need to hear about people in your community. And I cannot stress that enough, that will always be incredibly important. And whether you do that through individual meetings, group meetings, through op-eds, through videos on social media, through press conferences, through media releases, it all matters. And so I just want to thank you all for all the advocacy that you've done and continue to do. Again, stress, you matter, your story matters, and we're eager to continue working together. So thank you again on your 50th. Congratulations again on your 50th. Yeah. We can do, I've got to run, unfortunately, to a meeting, but can do maybe 1 or 2 questions if folks have any.
First of all, Josh, thank you so much for taking the time out of your morning to join us. We have a lot of folks here who are connected with agencies, social service agencies, their parishes. How do they connect with your office?
Yeah, so one is we will make sure to share with everyone the link where you can sign up to get on our mailing list. And I take your inbox real estate very seriously. I want you to know that. And we don't send tons of spam. What we do send are invites to our Thursday noon call every week. We send a newsletter every week that has key updates and resources from the White House and from across the administration, and that's where you'll find out, hey, are there grant proposals that we can apply for? Is there an upcoming training on technical assistance for something that is coming out on health equity? Is there, for example, there's a COVID summit today that's happening at noon that we've been sharing information about. This is the place to get a lot of the key information that's coming out of the White House. So we'll make sure to send that sign up around to everyone. We also have an inbox that folks should feel free to reach out to. And it's partnerships@who.eop.gov. We'll send this around so you don't need to memorize it. This is a way to connect with us and to stay in touch and to let us know what you're doing. So we definitely want to hear from you. And we hope that especially you can tune in not only for our Thursday calls, but then we also have special briefings on other topics too. So oftentimes when the administration will announce something new, we'll host a briefing on that thing, and pretty quick turnaround, because we know that people need to know about it. So when the president announces something big, usually what we'll do is we'll pull a briefing together, within 24 hours. And being on this list is a great way to know about that, to stay cued in, and especially when there are late-breaking announcements on really key and important things that impact your communities. Great, and I apologize. I do need to run. I have to back over to the White House for a 9 a.m. meeting. But it's so good to be with everyone. Thank you so much for being up this early, really. And fortunately, the coffee's great. So, yeah, and just, again, even more so, congratulations on 50 amazing years. And just so grateful for all you're all doing. Keep making your voices heard. Thanks, everyone.
Joe, it's our fault, and Ben's fault you're late. All right, and we will make sure everybody gets the links to Josh's network, because as he said, if you need people if you have folks that you're serving who need to sign up for the CTC, the child tax credit, or anything like that, we can plug you in. All right. We have about 15 minutes before our racial justice plenary with special guests from Georgetown. So freshen up your coffee, get one more little muffin if you like, or anything like that. Take a stretch, and I will see you back here at 9.